everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the Samsung S21 Ultra 5G, and I wanted to help you decide which would be best for you. And so the first thing is the price. They do vary a little bit in price. The iPhone 12 Pro Max comes in at $1,099 and goes up to $1,399. The S21 Ultra comes in at $1,199 and goes up to $1,379. So there's a little bit of a difference at the low end and a very closer comparison at the top end. Both of them have three storage options of 128, 256, or 512 gigabytes. Neither of them have expandable storage this year, so you have the same for both. Now, as far as the color availability, well, the iPhone has four colors. You have silver, gold, graphite, and this Pacific blue, which looks really nice. And then also with the S21 Ultra, you have a few different other color options as well. So you have Phantom Black, which I have here, as well as Phantom Silver, and then three special order versions, Phantom Titanium, Phantom Navy, and Phantom Brown. So you've got all of those options for the different phones. Now, when it comes to the overall build of the phones, they're both slightly different. The iPhone 12 Pro Max is stainless steel around the outside edge. So you have a band around the whole outside of the phone that's stainless steel, very shiny, and then you have glass front and back. This is ceramic shield from Corning. It should be 4 times less likely to shatter in the event that you drop the phone. It also seems to hold up fairly well to scratches so far. On the S21 Ultra, it's constructed a little bit differently. You have aluminum around the outside edge with glass front and back, but this time we have Gorilla Glass Victus. Now, whether or not they're the same thing or very similar is hard to say, but Corning seems to make both of them, but it is aluminum instead of stainless steel around the outside edge. And even though it's aluminum, it's actually a little bit heavier. So the iPhone 12 Pro Max comes in at 8.03 ounces or 228 grams, where the S21 Ultra is 229 grams or 8.07 ounces for the millimeter wave version. So they both have 5G with millimeter wave, for example. Now, as far as the displays, well, there's a big difference here. So if we flip them over, we'll unlock both, and they both have slightly different unlocking methods. You have Face ID with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which is nice and fast. You just pick it up. You also have a face recognition option that's less secure on the S21 Ultra, but you have the under the display fingerprint sensor. So put your thumb down. It's very fast. It works really well. And if you're wearing a mask, it's much more convenient than putting in a passcode, for example. So it's nice and fast this year, much better than previous years, even better than the Note 20 Ultra in my experience so far. Now, the displays, like I said, are very different. On the 12 Pro Max, you have a 6.7-inch display. It's a Super Retina XDR, 2,778 by 1,284 pixels, with a density of 458 pixels per inch. It supports HDR, True Tone, has a regular brightness of 800 nits, and goes up to 1,200 nits of brightness with HDR. With the S21 Ultra, you've got a 6.8-inch display, 1,440 by 3,200 with 515 pixels per inch. So it's a little bit more pixel dense, but it is slightly larger as well. You also have a higher peak brightness of 1,500 nits, and it has a 120 hertz display that can vary all the way down to 10 hertz based on what you're doing so that it can help save battery. But it's super smooth due to that display. I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And then it also supports an S Pen if you want to use a pen. So, for example, if you have this accessory with the case and you get an S Pen, or you have an old Galaxy Note, you can just take the pen and then you can use it to scroll through, do whatever you'd like. It does not have a slot in the phone for it. You would need that external case. You don't get the air gestures that you do with the previous versions of the Samsung Note, for example. Now, both of them have speakers at the top and the bottom, but they're a little bit different. So on the top of the S21 Ultra, it's the small slit that you see right at the top of the display. There's this ever so slight slit at the top where the speaker is, and that also helps with stereo sound. So when you're holding the phone this way, you have speakers on the bottom and the top. You also have the same with the iPhone. So you have the speaker at the top and the bottom, and then of course your microphones and everything else. You have USB-C versus Lightning as well, so you have those options. And as far as the sound, they're both pretty good. Let's go into YouTube so you can listen to one of my previous videos to see what it sounds like. Now, both of these displays can display HDR, so if we go into the settings, on the iPhone, you'll see we've got the option for 4K. This is not an HDR video. And on the S21 Ultra, Oddly, you have up to 1440p. That's just the options that show up. YouTube can change this as they choose, but we have similar resolutions. You're not really going to notice a difference there, but you have a higher option on the iPhone. Now let's go ahead and take a listen to the speakers. So I have the microphone pointing this way. We'll listen to about 15 seconds of the audio on each. This is a camera comparison between all of the iPhones this year. So those are the speakers. Now let's talk about the specs. With the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you have Apple's A14 Bionic, which is just super fast. It has 6 gigabytes of RAM, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it seems to handle it without a problem. If you're going to music and multitasking, going back and forth into, say, YouTube, for example, things don't seem to reload. It works just fine. On the S21 Ultra, you have the new Snapdragon 888 processor along with 12 or 16 gigs of RAM. So yes, you definitely have more RAM with the phone, but it doesn't seem to make much of a difference. It just seems like Android can benefit from it by keeping apps open depending on what you do. So if you go into your app switcher here, we'll go to YouTube, tap on this. Not only do you get things like split screen, for example, or keep open, which will keep the app open in the background, and it will not close it automatically because you have that RAM to do that. So you have extra RAM for that. And because of that, the S21 Ultra is a productivity powerhouse. So you've got a lot of different options. Of course, this is Android related as well. But if you want to go into YouTube, for example, and then multitask with, say, another app and split screen, you can do that. You can't do that on the iPhone. So now we have two different things here. So we have split screen, two different options. We can move it around. And so you have that advantage over the iPhone. And of course, full customization with the S21 being that it's Android. So with the iPhone, of course, you can go into singular apps. You can use picture-in-picture on some apps like Apple TV, for example, but not everything. With the S21 Ultra, you definitely get more customization, but that's just the nature of Android. The experience on both is very fast and fluid. With the display being 120 Hertz, it definitely makes a difference with smoothness overall. There's just an advantage with that. It just is super smooth with the S21 Ultra. But with the iPhone, you're going to get incredible speed either way. So it has amazing speed when it comes to opening apps. Something like the camera, for example, you're going to see is going to be basically the same on both. Phones are so fast now that there's not as big of a difference as there used to be. And in general, you can do about the same sort of thing and have similar experiences other than the smoothness of the display on the S21 Ultra with that 120 Hertz. It definitely makes a difference. It's just super smooth all the time. Not everyone will notice that, but people definitely will. So whether it be you're opening an app like the camera or you're opening an app that's like a social media app such as Telegram, I have my Telegram channel linked below, you'll have that option and it will run super fast either way. It doesn't really make a difference as far as speed between the two with everyday tasks. The iPhone has the neural engine. The S21 has an AI engine that sort of does the same thing. Apple's ahead in the processor as far as the speed overall when you're doing many things, but the majority of things you're doing, such as Instagram or maybe you're just watching a YouTube video, will be about the same. Now, like I said, both experiences should be pretty great, but the cameras are a little bit different this year. With the iPhone, you have Dolby Vision HDR for video. You have RAW photos, as you can see in the upper right of the phone. You also have 12-bit photos on the S21 Ultra, but 8K video with the S21. Now, whether or not the video is better per se is hard to say, as we'll have to compare that in just a moment, but you do have that option. So there's so many different things between the phones as far as cameras, and there's very different specs. For example, the forward-facing camera on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is 12 megapixels and has an f2.2 aperture, but can record 4K 60 Dolby Vision HDR. But with the S21 Ultra, we have a 40 megapixel forward-facing camera with an f2.2 aperture that can also do 4K. So we have similar options in both. On the back, though, it's very different. On the iPhone 12 Pro Max, they've decided to go with a 3-lens setup. So what we have is triple 12 megapixel cameras. We have an ultra wide f2.4, wide f1.6, and telephoto f2.2 with a 2.5x optical zoom or 5x punching into the sensor. We also have LiDAR to help with things such as autofocus in darker situations, and of course we've got a flash as well. On the S21 Ultra, we have more lenses than the iPhone and a slightly different setup. So we have a 12 megapixel ultra wide f2.2, 108 megapixel wide f1.8, a 10 megapixel telephoto f2.4, so it's a 3x telephoto, and then a periscope zoom telephoto, which is also 10 megapixels f4.9. Also, when you get very close to an object, it can do macro as well. Now, they've opted for laser autofocus, similar to LiDAR, and then, of course, your flash as well. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at what the cameras can do in a comparison of both the photos and video. So let's take a look at that now. This is the forward-facing camera of the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the S21 Ultra. And as you can see, they look very different. We have different lenses on them, and also the backgrounds look a little bit different. On the iPhone, they look a little bit more washed out, at least in the screens that I'm seeing, compared to the S21 Ultra. Also, we have different microphones, so you can hear the S21 Ultra now, and now the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Let me know which one you think sounds best in the comments below. Now, when it comes to the battery of both, they're very different, but the battery life is more similar than you would think. So with the 12 Pro Max, it has a 3,687 milliamp hour battery that's good for about 20 hours of video playback. The S21 Ultra has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and in tests that I've seen online, the S21 Ultra does get the best battery life between these phones doing similar tasks. So for example, if you were to put Netflix on here, or maybe just watch a video streaming from the internet, whether that be from YouTube or anywhere else, you'll probably get better battery life with the S21 Ultra. However, both of them can get up to about 10 hours of screen on time depending on what you're doing, or 12 hours. It really depends on how you're using it. So if you have the brightness really low, maybe you're indoors, it's night, and you're using Instagram or you're using Twitter or just social media and you're not doing anything intensive, they're going to last a very long time. But either way, they have great batteries in both. So if you're going to pick one for the best battery, well, technically the S21 has the best battery in the tests I've seen, but they're so close that I really wouldn't pick either or just based on battery alone. Now, both of them have fast charging capability, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max this year has the same 15-watt fast charging ability as the S21 Ultra, but you need Apple's MagSafe adapter. So you can just plug this in, and it will fast charge up to 15 watts. However, if you use a Lightning connector, you can charge it with a 20-watt adapter up to about 50% in 30 minutes. Now, the S21 Ultra can also charge on any Qi-compatible charger, but supports 15-watt fast charging. But also, if you have the supported 25-watt brick, if you bought that power adapter, you can charge the phone fully from 0 to 100% in about an hour, according to Samsung. This seems to be true. I've tested it. It's very close to maybe an hour and 10 minutes from 0 to 100%, and you're good to go. So it charges super fast compared to the iPhone. The iPhone will take a little bit longer than that, but either way, they last throughout the day without a problem. Now, both do have similar Wi-Fi specs as well, 802.11 AB, GN, and AC. However, the iPhone has Wi-Fi 6. The S21 Ultra has the new Wi-Fi 6E. The S21 Ultra also has Bluetooth 5.2, where the iPhone has Bluetooth 5.0. So that may make a difference to some people. It shouldn't be too big of a difference, though. And that brings me to which one should you choose? If you have a lot of friends and family that use iPhones, well, iMessage may be the best thing for you. If you're really into customization and you don't have any Apple products, well, the S21 Ultra may be best for you because it offers a lot of customization and things that the iPhone doesn't, such as S Pen support or other things such as a different type of camera. There's different advantages to each one. If you're heavily involved in the Apple ecosystem, such as you have a Mac or say an iPad, iMessage works nicely between the two, Find My, and everything just integrates really nicely, especially if you have an Apple Watch, for example. However, if you want a Samsung Galaxy Watch, you could go that route, and if you have Windows, you can integrate this nicely with that. So it really comes down to which one you use most. Battery life is very similar, like I said, and the overall experience is so good on both phones, you can't go wrong with either one. It just comes down to personal preference as far as that goes. But let me know which one you chose and why in the comments below. Maybe you decided to stick with an older phone, and that works best for you. Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to get your hands on this wallpaper, of course, I'll link it in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.